Hey, what's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with this week's My 2 Cent Switch gaming video for this week, where I take a look at some of the stories that came out and give you my thoughts and opinion, at least the ones that caught my attention. Apologize if I'm not wearing my off-work shirt or anything like that. Unfortunately, I'm shooting this on Thursday. It will probably hopefully come up on Saturday, due to the fact that I have to come in to work on my day off, hopefully just for dinner and all that stuff. But enough talking about me and everything like that. Why don't we get started with this week's My 2 Cent then? So the first one we want to talk about is a report or a story that coming out that the CryEngine might be coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, as some of you are probably fully aware of, at least right now though, that the Nintendo Switch currently supports several different engines though. One of the most obvious ones was the Unreal Engine 4, when Epic announced that after the official reveal of the Switch, following Nvidia talking about that they put in a custom-made chip for the Nintendo Switch, which later turned out to be supposedly the second iteration of the Maxwell chip. I could be wrong on that, but this is from what I've been hearing about that. Not only that, of course, like I said, Unreal Engine 4, Unity as well, and Vulkan as well, the same Vulkan engine that powered Doom, or as I like to refer to it as Doom 2016, which surprisingly, I'm still surprised that game managed to run on the Switch very well. That certainly was kind of interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not anywhere near the level of what PS4 or Xbox One or PC is, but still, it is very impressive though. So anyway, back to what I was saying though. Apparently, there is a possibility that the CryEngine could come to the Nintendo Switch. This was reported by Super Metal Dave 64. Again, I'll have his video and the link in the description. Whether you agree with him or not, that's your opinion. But later on, I found the article from a site called badfives.com. According to the article, it points out though, Aulx Studio is a Czech game development studio that has recently released Kingdom Come Deliverance, an impressive medieval RPG built with one of the most capable engines in the world, the CryEngine. In a recent post, the founder of Aulx Studio tweeted the following though, quote, and this was posted on March 20th though, in our defense, I have to say that at the time there were no next-gen console, and both Nvidia and Amazon were hitting something more powerful than the Xbox 360 to come very soon, and then the game got a little bigger than we planned. Everyone knows the rest though. And then a person posted though at around 11 p.m. on March 2018, quote, "If only CryEngine supports the Nintendo Switch." Well, that got an interesting response from the Twitter feed from CryEngine, the CryEngine though, and it said, quote, "We would love to support all platforms, but we have no details right now. Stay tuned to our official channel for any update on this in the future. Be sure to check out our roadmap, at CryEngine.com/roadmap. Now, before we begin, before I say anything, the first thing we want to point out though is that neither Crytek, that creates the CryEngine, nor Nintendo has said anything at this time though, so we don't know 100% for certain if the engine will come to the Nintendo Switch or not. Having said all that though, personally, I would be open if it comes to the Nintendo Switch. I think the more engines that the Nintendo Switch supports, the better, and I think this would be a great idea to bring the CryEngine over. And while the engine has produced some impressive games, it's also produced some stinkers as well, such as, Sonic Boom Rise of the Lyrics is one example. Then there was the Homefront Revolution, a game that would have been good if it wasn't plagued by a lot of issues and all that stuff that would have unfortunately held it back though. So the idea of the CryEngine coming to the Switch is a possibility, not to mention that, if I'm saying the name of the series correctly though, Crysis, CrySis though, is I think one of the games that runs on the CryEngine, though. It is worth pointing out, though, that supposedly that game was in development for the Wii U, and they were able to get it running on the Wii U, but unfortunately they had to pull the plug on it, mostly because EA told to pull the plug on it and all that stuff. And, well, it's EA to be exact, though. So, I mean, this isn't an official confirmation, I get, though. We won't know until Crytek or the developers of the CryEngine come out and officially say it is. But given what we've seen so far with the capability of the Switch, given how it's able to run Ubisoft's Snowdrop engine that used Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle and South Park Fractured but Whole, but that's also coming to the Nintendo Switch. The Vulkan engine, which manages to run Doom on the Nintendo Switch, and we're going to be interested to see how well Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus runs, to the fact it runs Unreal Engine 4, which rumor has it right now that the new Pokemon game could run on Unreal Engine 4, and the upcoming Yoshi game could run on Unreal Engine 4. So, with all that said, I think there is a possibility that the CryEngine could be bringing that game over to, that engine over to the Nintendo Switch. Now, it doesn't automatically mean that Kingdom Come Deliverance is coming to the Switch, or that the Crisis series is coming, or the trilogy is coming to Nintendo Switch. This isn't an official confirmation on that, though I'll admit I wouldn't be against that if it did come, though. So, bottom line is, it was an interesting response. We'll have to wait and see if the CryEngine does come to Nintendo Switch or not, but I certainly would not be against it coming to the Nintendo Switch. I hope it does, because the more engines that are available for the developers to bring to the Switch, the better. I say I see the Switch support as much engines out there as possible for developers to use. So hopefully this engine does come to the Nintendo Switch. Alright, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about a trademark Nintendo may have filed for one of their IPs that they might be making a comeback, though, by the name of Wario himself. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at several articles that point out that recently Nintendo has filed some trademarks for several different games, and according to what Bleeding Cool News and other sites are saying, if it's true, apparently we might be getting a return of Wario, and he might be starting in an all-new game, maybe Wario Land or something. We'll have to wait and see. So, according to the article, it points out Nintendo applies for several trademarks, including Wario Land. The news comes from Silicon Era, which shows off a transcript from 2 different Japanese trademark forms. One which shows the company is applying for a new trademark on just the term Wario Land. No details as to whether this means the company is creating a Switch or 3DS version as well. It points out that the trademark, I believe, it doesn't show when the trademark was filed, but it came around the same time when they filed the trademark for one of them being the Octo logo for Splatoon 2, which will later be known as the Octo expansion, though. It also points out that they filed trademarks for Dylan's Dead Heat Breaker, Luigi's Mansion, Mario and Luigi, Metroid Prime, Smash Brothers, Wario Land, and WarioWare, which we know that WarioWare is happening. We know Smash Brothers is happening. We know Metroid Prime 4 is happening, although them saying Metroid Prime could be maybe a remake of the first one, or possibly and this is just a possibility, the Metroid Prime trilogy coming to the Switch. We know Luigi's Mansion, that is coming to the 3DS as well. So, personally, my opinion on this is that I would love to see another Wario Land game, though. For those who are not familiar, Wario got his start as being the arch nemesis in the 1992 Game Boy release of Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins, before starring in his own game with Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3, and then later spinning off with Wario Land 2, which kind of shaked up the formula a little bit with the whole no die approach, where sometimes you want to have Wario get hit and all that stuff. Like, for example, if he gets squished, he could basically squeeze through some tight spots and catch him on fire. He basically will break through certain blocks that can only be broken if he's on fire and all. Become a zombie. He could fall through certain walls, get extremely fat by eating cakes, and he could ground pound through certain areas and so on. It spawned, several other entries: Wario Land 2, 3, the Game Boy Advance, Wario Land 4. Hell, he even made an appearance on the Virtual Boy, for crying out loud. Yep, that's right, the Virtual Boy. And then, of course, made an appearance in Wario World for the Nintendo GameCube. And, of course, the last entry, Wario Land Shake It for the Nintendo Wii. So, for me, though, I would love to see another entry for Wario Land. I would love to see them bring him back and put him in an all-new 2D adventure or 3D adventure. I mean, I would be okay if they ported Wario World and Wario Land Shake It to the Nintendo Switch. That would be fine if they do that. But I think a whole new entry would also be great as well. I mean, bring back a lot of the stuff that made the other Wario Land games a classic as well. I mean, it's possible they could bring it to the Nintendo 3DS, but personally, I would prefer if they bring it to the Nintendo Switch. And who knows, maybe they'll announce it at E3, though my guess is that while I believe it's possible they could announce that, I expect the most likely scenario is that they will focus heavily on Pokemon and Smash Brothers as really the game they want to push out to really continue that momentum for the Nintendo Switch. But it's possible they could announce this one as well. So overall, hopefully the trademark's true. Hopefully we get an all-new Wario Land game, and hopefully it will come to the Nintendo Switch, though. Although, like I said, a port of Wario World and Wario Land Shake It, I would be fine with that as well, too. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the announcement for a release date for Dragon Quest XI, which is both good, have good news, and bad news, depending on which system you own. So, take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with the third part of our My Two Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at an announcement regarding Dragon Quest XI, which has certainly gotten a lot of buzz, and a lot of people are looking forward to it. And they have announced a launch date for the game, which is great news if you own a PS4 or a PC, and bad news if you have a 3DS or a Nintendo Switch. So why don't we get started, though? According to the article, I believe, the article from Siliconera, Siliconera, apologize if I'm saying the name correctly, though. They recently reported that Dragon Quest XI is arriving on the PS4, and for the first time ever for the series on PC. So PC owners will get a chance to try it out on September 8th. However, the 3DS version won't be coming westward at all, and the Switch version will arrive much later, according to a report from IGN. In a statement to IGN, Square Enix said, "Our aim for Dragon Quest XI and for Dragon Quest brand is to grow the audience in the West. From a business point of view, it makes strategic sense to release the 3DS version in Japan in 2017. For the West in 2018, it made the most sense to focus on the PS4 and PC PC Steam platform, though." So I will say it is nice that the game has finally got a launch date, and for those who have a PS4 or PC, it's going to be coming out on September 8th, though. At the same time, I do feel, as a Nintendo fan, though, a little disappointed, though, for two reasons. One, that you have no plans to release the 3DS version. I mean, yes, I'm aware that it's time for Nintendo to move on from the 3DS to the Switch, at least from this Nintendo fan's perspective. but I still, that said, there's still people that are still supporting the Nintendo 3DS, so to me it seems foolish for them not to bring the game over to the 3DS for like people to try that out. As far as the Switch version goes, I feel though that Square Enix, it just feels like they may have jumped the gun when they originally announced the game though. For those who are not familiar, back before it was called the Nintendo Switch, it was often referred to as codename NX, and Square Enix announced that they would be bringing Dragon Quest XI to the NX, even though no one has even seen it yet. They probably may have, but who knows. And I just think looking at it now, it seems a little bit too premature and all that stuff. And Square Enix so far has not gotten on to the greatest relationship, especially with Nintendo fans. Last year they had that whole Final Fantasy 15 debacle where one of the producers talked about making a game that rhymes with Twitch, which gave the impression that it was coming. Then suddenly they had to backtrack on that, and they got into a whole mess of water, and then Nintendo contacted them and so on. So I don't know what the whole deal with that is. So to me, I mean, yes, perhaps maybe there's a possibility that they were so heavily in development for the PC and the PS4 version that eventually when the Switch came out though, they didn't have enough time to work on it. I mean, I understand that because the Switch, let's be honest, the Switch came out on March 3rd, 2017 and so on, but I just feel that looking back at it, if the Switch version's coming much later, I just feel it sounds a little maybe too premature to make the announcement of, hey, we're bringing it to the NX and then suddenly realize we're working on it much later due to certain issues in that. On the other hand, though, Sega did announce Sonic Forces when the Switch was called NX, though, and all that stuff. So, bottom line is, great that basically the game has a launch date. Great that if you have a PS4 or a PC, you're going to pick it up. Somewhat disappointed, though, that the game is that the Switch version is going to come a little bit later, or much later, though. Obviously, into my guess is going to be into sometime in 2019. To the fact that the 3DS version is not coming over here. And on a side note, I kind of wonder if they even got started with the Switch version. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a version of that at E3. I mean, disappointed, yeah. Surprised, not really. So bottom line is, disappointed that we have to wait for the Switch version though. But for those who have a PS4 and PC, mark your calendar, September 8th. That's when the game's going to come out. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to a fourth story. I don't do four stories, but this one kind of caught my attention and decided to do this one, and that is regarding some of the controversies possibly surrounding some of the reviews of Far Cry 5. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with the fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video for this week, though. And this one I kind of debated a little bit of whether or not I wanted to talk about this or not, because no matter what I'm going to say and anything like that, either some people are going to be either disagree, or either agree or disagree, be offended or not, either like or dislike this video, or unsubscribe or subscribe to my YouTube channel. So either way, no matter what I'm going to say, either someone's going to get their panties tied in a knot or not. So, but you know what? You can't please anyone. That's the thing. You really can't. And so what is this? What I'm talking about? It has to do with Far Cry 5. Now, as you know, the game already came out this week. I played a little bit of it, though. I haven't done my review of it yet. I'm hoping to try to get to that soon. And it is fun. It is an enjoyable game, though. I am having fun with the game, to be exact, though. I still have to get to my pros and cons of that one as well. And for the most part, the game has sat very well, and it's gotten some good reviews, though. I believe last time I checked, the PS4 version, though, was sitting at an 81 on Metacritic, though, and it's gotten some really good reviews on Amazon as well. So overall, the game is getting some positive buzz, though. However, there has been some controversy over some of the reviews that some people have given, and one of the videos, and this comes from a YouTuber by the name of Legacy Killer HD. If I'm saying the name correctly, apologize if I'm not. And this has to do when he did a video talking about some of the bad reviews for Far Cry 5. I won't say this is controversial, but depending on how you look at it, though, some may view it that way. And so that has to do with some of the reviews, I think from Polygon to be exact, and that points out about how the game, in terms of the story itself, is not basically a stab at, Trump America, like it's not like, in other words, it kind of gives the impression that it's not, doesn't take a stab at real world events, and where our country is right now under President Trump and all that stuff. And so I did get a chance to read the review from Polygon just to see for myself, and here's where I stand on this, though. And before I begin, I want to point out two things. I just want to point two things out first before we begin. Number one, I am not a fan of President Trump. I think he is an idiot. I think the fact that this guy cares more about his ego rather than anyone else. I think as long as his ego is not damaged, he doesn't care exactly what happens to that person. I wouldn't be surprised if he is a racist to begin with, considering this is the guy who pushed the President Obama's birth certificate, the whole birther movement, to be exact, which I think is, if you are a birther, you're just as bad as those who deny the Holocaust, to be exact. So I am no fan of Trump to begin with, though. Number two, I do want to point out that while I don't disagree that biased reviews exist, it becomes pretty hard to listen to that argument or agree with that argument when we have seen many times how many people have used the term biased reviews even when it's not necessary. We've seen some gamers and YouTubers out there have played the biased review when a game that either they liked didn't get a high score, as we saw with last year, as I like to dub Reviewgate, where some people got upset that Horizon Zero Dawn didn't score higher than Breath of the Wild, and went on to the user score to try to drive down Breath of the Wild's user score, while some people got upset with Jim Sterling giving the game a 7 out of 10, going as far as DOSing his website and so on. To even with movies as well, as we saw with Ghostbusters Answer the Call, where some people said that if you like the movie, you're an evil SJW feminazi, or you got paid by Sony. If you hate the movie, you're basically sexist towards women and all that stuff. Hell, even Star Wars The Last Jedi got that as well, where some people suddenly pull the same thing with Ghostbusters Answer the Call as well. So, and for the record, if you're playing that card, the being bought out by Disney or the feminazi and SJW thing, I'm sorry, but you have absolutely no valid argument, though. And when you're trying to claim media bias when your game did not get a high score, though, I'm sorry, I have a hard time buying that. Playing the media bias card is just as bad as those who play the fake news card, okay? That it's basically another way. The fake news card is basically another way of saying, I don't want to take responsibility for my stupidity, I'm just going to blame someone else, or I know it's true, I don't want to admit it. In other words, the biased media I look at the same way as playing the fake news card, to be exact, though. With that said, however, that doesn't mean that there isn't a case of, biased media, or where sometimes reviewers may go a little bit too far. And in case with Far Cry 5, based on the story, at least from what I've played so far, while and this is coming from someone who is a independent but left-leaning, to be exact, while I certainly wouldn't have a problem if the developers at Ubisoft made Far Cry 5 take a stab at President Trump, or Trump America to be exact, I'm not losing sleep over it, though, really. And the truth of the matter is, it goes back to how I feel about politics and gaming as well, though. I don't have a problem if a developer wants to put a political message in their game, but I don't believe a developer should be forced to put one in, though. If the Ubisoft doesn't want to put a political message in Far Cry 5, that's their decision. That's their call. A game shouldn't get a low score just because they did not put a political message that you think they should put it in, though. I mean, it's really up to the developers to decide to do that. I mean, hell, Nintendo, I think last year or recently said that they don't put political messages in their game, which, again, that's their decision. That's their call. If they don't want to do that, they don't have to do that at all. That's their IP and so on. And the same thing with Ubisoft, though. In fact, if anything, Far Cry 5, in a way, Joseph Seed almost kind of reminds me a bit of, you know, Jim Jones and the infamous Jamestown. I think that was back in the 1970s, to the infamous whole Waco, Texas type of thing. So, if anything, that's what you could see some similarities in a way. But the point I'm trying to make is that while it would have been nice to see something like that in Far Cry 5, take a stab at, you know, President Trump and all that stuff, I'm not losing sleep over it, though. And I really don't think the game should deserve a low score just because they didn't do, you know, took a stab at Trump America and all that stuff. Now, if the story's boring or uninteresting, that's one thing, but to lower the score just because it didn't do that, I think it's a little bit over the top. And I don't agree with the argument that politics should stay out of gaming or anything like that. I mean, a lot of the medias have had political message in a way. Music, for example, has had one. Like, for example, like the Beatles with, you know, the song about the Taxman, though. Movies as well. One of my favorite Marvel movies, Captain America Winter Soldier, had basically the political message of how much of your freedom are you willing to sacrifice in the name of safety and security. Even video games, like one of my favorite, number 5 on my list, Valkyrie Chronicles, sort of, to me, had a message of what happens when we take bigotry and hatred and how far it really goes. As you see how the Darsons are treated, though, which is very similar to how the Jews were treated during World War II, including other minority and ethnic groups as well. So, to me, the bottom line I'm trying to make is that I don't have a problem if a developer wants to add a political message or anything like that, but ultimately that is their decision and their decision only. And I don't think a game should get a negative review just because it didn't add a political message, though. I feel that's the developer's decision, whether they want to add one or not, and that's really their call, though. So I kind of agree with what this YouTuber is saying, but I somewhat disagree to a certain extent, though. But as I said, if a developer wants to add a political message, that's fine. If they don't want to add one, that's fine. That's their decision. That's their call. They shouldn't be prevented from putting one in, but they shouldn't be forced to put one in either. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the possibility that the CryEngine could come to the Nintendo Switch? Are you open to that idea? Would you like to see the engine come to the Nintendo Switch? And, excuse me, are there games that run on that engine that you would love to see if they were able to get the engine to run on the Switch? What are your thoughts about the trademark of Wario Land being trademarked by Nintendo? Are you excited for that? Are you hoping Nintendo is able to make a Wario Land, an all-new Wario Land game? Or port over, say, like the ones I mentioned, like WarioWare or Wario Land Shake It? Would you like for it to come to the Nintendo Switch? Would you like for it to come to the 3DS? Would you like it to come to both, to be exact, though? And what are your thoughts about Dragon Quest XI getting a launch date, though, for September 8th? Are you looking forward to it, though? Are you happy the game's coming out? Are you kind of disappointed that the Switch version has been delayed and the 3DS version is not going to be localized here in the West, though? Does it really matter or bother you? And what are your thoughts about some of this comment from this YouTuber regarding, or this video he did, regarding Far Cry 5 and some of the bad reviews in terms of the fact that it doesn't take a stab at Trump America, though? Do you think it's a big deal? Do you think it's not a big deal? Do you think the reviewers should have not write it that way though? Do you think he has a point? Do you think the reviewer has a point? Do you think they don't have a point though? Do you agree with what I said in this video, or do you disagree, or do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. It's evening in Southern California, so I'll be getting ready for bed soon, and I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.